Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first ever Truth and Rhythm update, where I'm going to speak directly to the audience, tell you a little bit more about the show, myself, and make it a more personal connection. So first off, Truth and Rhythm, what's it about? It's about preserving the legacies and giving a platform to the great funk, jazz, and R&B musicians and figures related to that genre that are fortunately still with us to give us those stories and tell us, the creative inspirations and work and process that went into creating all those great albums and songs that we just all grew up on and love, and that new people continue to discover all the time, fortunately, and hopefully more so with this program. So it's dedicated to focusing on contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. That's the tagline. And who am I? I am a lifelong music nut, really, and also electronics connoisseur or aficionado, and spent my formative years digging through record bins when vinyl was still the thing, and just countless hours in all kinds of record stores growing up in the LA area. I eventually became a disc jockey. I started my own company called Musical Moods, and I did all manner of events, and I also worked in clubs around Los Angeles, and was a member of the Resource and Impact record pools. And so I was deep into, dance music, funk, especially R&B, jazz, especially funk-influenced jazz. Also, later on, blues and hard rock, anything with really a lot of rhythmic foundation that gets you moving, gets you right here, and gets you really feeling it. So I wanted to thank everybody for following the program, for supporting Truth and Rhythm. It's been gaining a lot of subscribers, especially over the past year. I started the show in the spring of 2017. The first one was Chris Jasper, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member from the Isley Brothers. And now there's been over 70 episodes that have been put together. Most of them are multi-part. It goes deep, deep. That's the hallmark here is, you've got somebody interviewing these guys who has really followed them, and it's not just, a superficial, media person interviewing them. It's coming from a base of knowledge and love and passion, and giving them a forum to take as much time as they need to really convey all the stories and their thoughts and their memories from the road and the studio, different personalities, the business side of it, everything, trials and tribulations, conquests. So I've been hearing a lot more from fans as time goes on of the program, and that's a great thing. Keep writing me. Feel free to reach out to me anytime at scottg@funkandstuff.net, and keep it rolling. I also want to wish all of you the happiest of the holiday season. And, for my plug, as you know, I'm the author of Everything Was on the One That First Got a Funk, which was a labor of love that I began in the early 1990s, and it took me 25 years to finally finish it and bring it to market. And so you can get that at Amazon. I appreciate, those of you that do, and it makes a nice gift for any music fan. One of the recent things that I launched as a spinoff of Truth and Rhythm is something that I call Truth and Rhythm Quick Takes, and that features excerpts, usually ranging from a couple of minutes to maybe 10 minutes, from the different interviews to bring out real highlights, from those interviews, and to hopefully get some of you that don't have enough time maybe to take in the full interview, which they typically range from like 1 to 3 hours, broken up into segments. But if you don't have, the full time to do it, then you can do it in little bites. And also, new fans can be brought in with those. And it's also easy to come back and say, hey, I want to find out again how Cameo did I Just Want to Be, for example. So it's all there. I'm going to continue to produce those. And a recent development, too, is that if you are a subscriber, you get the shows and the quick takes before the general public. So sometimes it's only a day before, but you do get it first. So it's an extra little perk. And please get friends and family to also subscribe. Need that support. This environment here, this is the Truth and Rhythm mothership, as I like to call it. And you'll notice a lot of record awards and album covers behind me, and some of the other things, musical instruments. I do dabble. Unfortunately, one of my curses is I can't sing. So I think that was an element that really pushed me to get into being a DJ also, is so I could bring that music to people and share it, even though I can't sing. These are all signed. The record awards are not signed. And they're Prince's Parade, Parliament's Mothership Connection, and Tear the Roof Off the Sucker 45. But the pictures and records are signed from those acts. Over on the other side there, it's hard to see, but there's pictures of myself with George Clinton and with Bootsy Collins. I accumulated these while being an entertainment editor for a number of years. And my background is in writing and journalism and media, besides being in music through DJing. And, I spent time in music promotion and doing some Westwood One stuff for radio syndication, and music trade publications, all different ways I could get involved in the music industry. And if you go to either YouTube or funkinstuff.net, which is my home base and site, it's FUNKNSTUFF.net, funkinstuff.net. You will find a show that I did in the early 90s called Platter Chatter. And the idea there was for it to be an at the movies type of program for albums. And I had never seen that before. I've still never really seen that before. But what's cool is you go back and you watch them. And although YouTube made me pull a lot of the videos and some of the music clips out of it due to copyright issues, which is crazy because I had complete blessing and support from all the record labels when I did those shows. But anyway, you can enjoy this today. It's a mix. It's got funk, it's got rock, it's got jazz, everything's in it. So check out those Platter Chatter episodes also. So what am I looking to do with Truth and Rhythm? You know what? I'm looking to get to 100, get to 200 shows, to get as many artists represented as possible. And I wanted to share with you some of the artists that I am thinking about, that I have pursued. There's a lot of things and complications with trying to get people on the program, that ranges from sometimes having to deal with management, trying to track them down. A lot of these artists, especially from the 70s and 80s that did funk and R&B, they're kind of hard to find now. Plus the fact that, gosh, these great artists, a lot of them have been dropping like flies the past 5 years or so. We're starting to lose a lot of them. So I feel like I'm in a race against time in a lot of regards with this. So besides management, some of the other issues are just the technology itself, especially dealing mostly with guys who are 50 to 80 years old. And, they're intimidated by the idea of, doing a video interview remotely, because that's how I do these. I'm actually in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, although I grew up in Los Angeles, moved out here to the East Coast as a lifestyle change in 2006. And I love it out here, but I do miss, being connected to the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. And so a lot of these artists are intimidated by the technology, and getting them connected. I have to be a tech support guy as well. And some of them actually kind of have panic attacks, and it takes us sometimes weeks to get it done. And sometimes it never happens because of that. So it's really not very complicated technology, but for these guys, it can be very challenging for them. And then, guys are getting sick. Some are busy and still touring. There's just, numerous issues. Unfortunately, sometimes I get caught up by management who only wants them to do an interview if they have a new record coming out, which this show is not about promoting new records at all. I mean, it's about the artists themselves and their legacies and careers. If they have something coming out, great. We want to hear about it, but that's not what's first and foremost here. And another thing that makes Truth and Rhythm different. So some of the artists that I'm thinking about that I've reached out to, I'm just going to run down to you so you know, because you're probably curious, and some of them you can look forward to. So I have, my first and favorite band of all time aside from P-Funk, and that's the Ohio Players. There's only 4 originals that are still with us, Diamond, Chet, Billy Beck, and Merv. And Merv has been, out of music and living in New Zealand, and I've communicated with him numerous times. Billy Beck and Chet, I've reached out many times and not been able to get a reply back. Diamond, I've communicated with several times, and he was willing to do a phone interview, but is one of those guys that doesn't feel comfortable with the video technology. So I continue to pursue my beloved Ohio Players who have to be represented on Truth and Rhythm. Still want to continue to get more P-Funk guys. I'd like to get George himself, Blackbird, Bootsy, Mudbone, the list goes on and on. And also in contact and working on getting their engineer from United Sound in Detroit, none other than Jim Vitti. So keep your eyes open for that. Frankie Beverly and Mays trying to get their story. George Johnson I'm in contact with to get the Brothers Johnson story, and hopefully that will materialize soon. I've had Larry Dunn on the show to tell the Earth, Wind, and Fire story, but still looking to get the other guys on the show, guys like Al McKay, Philip Bailey, Ralph Johnson, Michael Henderson. I've spoken to Michael Henderson, and he's a little bit irascible, and he was another one who actually didn't want to do video. So I'm hoping to go back to him, and maybe he'll change his mind and do the video. Ray Parker Jr., really hard time tracking him down. Reached out many times, hoping to get him. Herbie Hancock's people said he's too busy, so maybe I'll revisit that. Shaka Khan, Stevie Wonder, these are kind of dream guests that I'd lose my mind if I could have on, but I can dream. Sheila E., Mavis Staples, Sly Stone. When I had Neftali Santiago from Mandrill on the show, he's actually friends with Sly, and was hoping maybe, another dream guest would be Sly Stone. Bill Withers, again, sort of a dream guest, but hopefully. Pleasure is a band. Spoken to Marlon McLean numerous times, who worked with Pleasure and other great acts. He's declined so far, but I'm hoping maybe he'll change his mind. Been going after Nate Phillips, a great bass player. Not been able to reach him, unfortunately. So still looking to tell the Pleasure story. Ronnie Laws, a great sax player. Started to do a show with him, and then there was an issue, and so it didn't really get off the ground. And still going after Ronnie Laws, looking forward to having him on. Randy Muller, the brass construction leader, reached out many times. Was hoping to also get the BT Express story from him. And I don't know, he doesn't reply. So hoping still to get him. Maceo Parker, had been going after him for a long time. I've had Fred Wesley on as the other key member that's still with us from the JB Horns, and my favorite sax player of all time. In fact, my son was named after Maceo Parker His middle name is Parker, and that's why. So been dealing with his manager, and he is so busy, he keeps touring. So really hoping to have him on. Larry Graham, another dream guest, hoping I can get somewhere. Kool and the Gang. Communicated with Kool himself and with others related to the band, and still trying to get their management to make it happen. So we'll continue to pursue Kool and the Gang. That's one that has to be on Truth and Rhythm. The Time. I've already had on Jelly Bean and Monty Moyer, and hoping to get Morris Day, Jesse Johnson, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis. The Revolution. I've already had Dr. Fink on, and hoping to get the others too. Brown Mark, David, Bobby Z, and Wendy and Lisa, of course. Stanley Clark, one of my favorite bass players of all time. After him, Bob James. His people initially said no, but now that he has a new record out, especially, has been touring, or hoping to revisit Bob James. Wonderlust, Stevie Wonder's band, looking to have members of them on. Jim Gilstrap was on, and he's worked with Stevie Wonder, of course, and was part of that, but hoping to get some other Wonderlust players. Rufus has been a real challenge. Was in touch quite a bit with Bobby Watson, their bass player, and he's not come on as I thought he would. And trying to get Tony Maiden, some of the other guys that were part of Rufus, but that's been a big challenge. And Rufus is another one that's got to be represented on Truth and Rhythm. Moving on down the line, Jeffrey Osborne is one that I've been pursuing for a long time. They said that when he had his new record out that we would do it, and that record came out now a while ago, and still have not gotten Jeffrey Osborne on, although I did get some other original members of LTD to tell that story. Jeff Lorber was in contact with his people, thought we would get him on in connection with his album that came out in August, but that's still a work in progress. Zap was looking to have them on, but the Troutmans decided that they didn't want to, do a video. They asked for questions, which I have provided, and I'm still waiting, and hopefully they will maybe send me a video to put on Truth and Rhythm. Fingers crossed. And then the other side of that, the Zap members who were not part of the Troutman family, they now have a act called Zap Anthology, and been in talks with them and working on getting them on the show. Harvey Mason, after him, another drummer, Lenny White. Rose Royce was thought they were going to be on the show, thought their keyboard player, Michael Nash, was going to be on, and that fell through. And so continue to push and be in contact with them. Rose Royce definitely should be on Truth and Rhythm. Ronald Isley, I had Ernie Isley on. As mentioned before, I've had Chris Jasper, and would like to have Ronald Isley, who's back there with a signed picture from when I interviewed him many years ago in his office. So hoping for Ronald. Charlie Wilson is another one. Had members of the Gap band on the show to tell that story, but hoping to get Charlie on as well. Alan Gorey from Average White Band, another guy that was spooked by the video so and the technology. Did get Hamish Stewart on, who was a great interview and show, and he told that AWB story, but still hoping to get Alan Gorey on. Roy Ayers, a great vibes player. I've been in contact with his family, and many months now, still hoping to get him on really soon. Styx Hooper of the Crusaders, the last surviving member of the Crusaders, would love to tell the Crusaders story on Truth and Rhythm. I was in contact with his manager for a long time, and it's just it's very challenging. He's a busy guy, and still pushing there. Michael Cooper of Confunction. We were all set and actually face-to-face on video to do the show, sort of like what happened with Ronnie Laws. There were some issues, and we didn't get it off the ground, and then been trying to connect with him and get it done ever since. Did do a Felton pilot on Truth and Rhythm earlier this year to tell the Confunction story, and that was a great one too. Larry Blackman, the leader of Cameo, of course, been after him and hope to get him on. Have told the Cameo story with Tommy Jenkins, who was on. Andre Simone, Prince's former bass player, and went on to produce Jody Watley and record his own records. Hoping to have him on as well. And Jody Watley herself. Speaking of female vocalists, looking for maybe In Vogue to be on. Leon Silvers, trying to get him on. He was the writer and producer of so many of the great solar recordings in the early 1980s. We've communicated, but just can't seem to get a show scheduled, so continuing to push there. Another sort of dream guest would be the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Their autograph picture is also back there. Patrice Rushen, another one I've reached out to. O'Brien, if you remember him, I've reached out to him. Rhonda Smith, former bass player for Prince, and of late with Jeff Beck. We have communicated numerous times. I hope and expect her to be on soon. Captain Sky, if you remember him, is sort of a early rap era Funkateer. A bit of a novelty act, but a very interesting character. May have him on soon. The System, that successful duo from the 1980s, they are going to be on, I think, very soon. In fact, you'll probably see them before the end of the year. The Deal, I've been in contact with them. They're reunited minus Babyface and Elliot Reed, but the other some other original members, and hoping to have them on. Daz Band, I've been talking to Bobby Harris and Skip, looking to have them on hopefully real soon. Same goes for Tony, looking to have them on as one of the newer funk R&B bands. And speaking of which, some of the newer groups, recently had on Jen Durkin of Deep Banana Blackout, and that same similar vein, looking to have members of Galactic, Dumpsta Funk, Weapon of Choice, spoken to Lonnie about that. Of course, did have Jerry Harrison of Slapback on a show, but also looking for Lettuce, Papa Loves Funk. Have actually spoken to Stanley Moore, the drummer of Galactic, and thought that was going to happen, but now it's looking more like it'll be probably early 2019. And even rappers interested in having Run DMC, Chuck D, Grandmaster Flash, or Melly Mel, Curtis Blow, who I've reached out to, Beastie Boys, Ice Cube, and so on. That's just a good sampling right there. Also Starpoint, I didn't mention that. I've been talking to Greg Phillips to get a Starpoint story on the show, and he also is a little hesitant with the video. So, there you know what may be coming soon and what's on my radar. So if there's somebody that you did not hear me mention that you think would be a good guest, or maybe you are that other person who would be a good guest, drop me a line. Okay, now I thought what might be interesting is to read you a passage or two from my book. Everything is on the First Guide of Funk. It's got reviews, mostly reviews, lists, stories, all kinds of fun stuff, and a lot of background on me, so you can learn more about who I am and why I have such an affinity for this music. But reading from the introduction called A Funkateers Born. Funk is fun, fearless and fancy-free, and perhaps too slinky, sneaky, slippery, and stinky to conform to a standard definition. It is first and foremost a particular feeling, a really good liberating feeling. Although you may struggle to explain it, there is no ambiguity once it takes hold and digs in. Stevie Wonder, a supremely gifted musician with a depth of inner vision that almost trivializes his lack of outward sight, has always had a unique perspective. In a Rolling Stone interview during the 1990s, he offered his definition of funk. Quote, "Funk is the soul going deep into itself," end quote, he told the magazine. Quote, "It's getting to that place which is the lost part of your soul. It's the great Motown bassist, James Jamerson, and my Man, Nate Watts. Sure, it's a groove thing. And it's a nasty thing. It's playing between the beats. It's got the complexity of jazz and earthiness of the blues, but it's even more complicated than that. It's got those syncopated complications that make you want to move. End quote, and amen. It took quite a while for funk to gain the respect it deserves. As with most other American music forms of the 20th century, funk remained a predominantly black phenomenon until the white public caught up and embraced it some 20 years after the fact. It had to survive the psychedelic 1960s, the disco 1970s, and the new wave 1980s. Skipping a little bit, this long overdue book is a labor of love from a devout, lifelong funk enthusiast. As a teenager growing up in Los Angeles, I first vibed to the sounds of the Ohio Players, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind & Fire. So by the time George Clinton's Mothership landed in 1975, I was more than ready to ride. It's in here at some point, but not here. The first three albums, I often get asked this, and I've posted on social media, but the first three albums I ever got on my own were Stevie Wonder's Filling His First Finale, Ohio Players' Skin Tight, and Parliament's Mothership Connection. So that gives you an idea of where I'm coming from. While continuing to gravitate toward anything funky, it was Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic universe that overwhelmed my senses. Not only did their albums contain the most ingenious music of the era, but their wild covers, demented liner notes, colorful characters, and revival-like concerts made it all something grander. It made it a movement. Skipping ahead to another chapter, it's called Stuck in the Middle with Funk. I seized every opportunity to listen to music. And so, when upon entering junior high, also known as middle school, I discovered radios were allowed. My small portable radio and later cassette player became as much a backpack fixture as my textbooks. This is where I became ever more deeply connected to black music and funk through favorites like Average White Band's Schoolboy Crush, the Ohio Players' Fire, Cool and the Gang Spirit of the Boogie, Earth, Wind & Fire's Shining Star. And skipping down a bit, by the time high school rolled around, technology had progressed and large portable combination stereo radio cassette tape players were all the rage, especially in the black community. The louder and more bass, the better. Cranked up, these things would suck 6-8 alkaline D cell batteries dry in a matter of hours. We're talking like that scene on the cover of LL Cool J's 1985 debut album, My Radio. Having saved up about $150, one day I rode the city bus many miles from Santa Monica to the Electronic District in downtown Los Angeles, where I could negotiate the best deal for one of these so-called boom boxes, also known as ghetto blasters. I ended up with an impressive Sanyo model, and from then on, everywhere I went, loud, funky tunes followed. Buying the baddest jams of the day whenever I could, and using the high-fidelity home stereo system cobbled together from components I got from my audiophile grandfather, I compiled mixtapes that rivaled the hottest black radio stations. Isley Brothers, Commodores, Bar-Kays, Confunction, Blackbirds, Cameo, Brothers Johnson, Bootsy's Rubber Band, Slave, and so many more were all pouring out of my boombox. The music was so powerful, life-affirming, and pleasurable that I just had to share it with all I could. Even at home, among my friends, I was on a quest to expose and win over as many converts as possible by proselytizing the funky truth. It was religion to me, and I was quite successful in drawing others into my funk flock. I'll just stop it there. So a little bit more about me. And, as I wrap this up, I wanted to find out if you like this direct communication and if you'd like to get more of them from me. Not sure what I'll say in them, but, post a comment on this video and let me know, or drop me a line, as I said, at scottg@funkandstuff.net, and let me know if you like this. And I'll continue to provide personalized updates from time to time. At funkandstuff.net, you'll find a complete listing of all the episodes of Truth and Rhythm, and they're all linked, so it's very handy. And also all of the episodes are there for the Truth and Rhythm quick takes. Lots of other cool stuff there too. But those are some resources that you'll want to bookmark and use. Let me know which shows are your favorites. Let me know who else you want to see, as I said. Again, I just want to, thank you. It's wonderful to be able to share this with others who just are as moved and touched by the music as I am. This is a labor of love. It's a passion of mine. And I just want to give back to all these artists and their music that have made my life that much more worth living and have gotten me through hard times, have made the good times that much better. And I just don't know where I would be. I don't even want to think about where I would be without that music, and especially without the funk. It is my lifeblood. So this is part of my life's work. And with that, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the support. Happy holidays. And, I also want to mention that sometimes, the show normally premieres to everybody 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. So sometimes if I'm traveling, that will be skipped. And if there's not any shows in the pipeline at that time, it'll be skipped. But I'll try to at least post a quick take for that Wednesday if there's not a new show available. And so with that, as always, hopefully you know the catchphrase by now, and that is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.